Okay, so good night, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Ruseas Brother Sister Foundation Empowerment Hour. This is a series that we run every week where we bring on a distinguished guest to really share their history of Ruseas. And before we get into introducing our special guest tonight, there's just a disclaimer I'd like to read for the benefit of the broader group. And the disclaimer is the views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in this forum belong solely to the guest and host and not necessarily to any employer, organization, committee, or other group or individuals. Okay, so that's the standard disclaimer we'd like to make. So now on to the business at hand. So I'm extremely delighted to welcome tonight a very special guest, a person I know quite well, a person who has had quite an influence on my, in my time at Ruseas, one that is a brilliant educator, a leader, and had quite a bit of influence during his tenure in Ruseas. And I'll let him talk about his time in Ruseas. So again, someone that I view as being very influential in his time at Ruseas. So Mr. Kenute Connell, welcome to the forum, sir.
Thank you very much. First, let me say total gratitude to the founder members of this foundation. It was long overdue, and so far, what I've been observing, I really love the energy and also the variety that you guys are offering. You know, this it's time for this to come to fruition, and so you guys did a great job. I just want to commend you guys on that. So that's what I want to say before I go any further. And it's a pleasure, man, to be sitting here to be interviewed by one of my former students. Honored I feel right now.
well, the honor is mine, sir. I remember. So we'll talk about it. But when I left school many years ago, of course, and I don't want to give away the time that you were in Ruseas, but many who are watching this would know what years you were at Ruseas. Clearly we fell out of touch for a very long time, and I think it was back in 2015 or 2016. After I was overseas for a while, came back to New York, and I think I remember you and I spoke then after many years, and of course we exchanged some thoughts in terms of and reminisce a bit about our time at Rusea. So the pleasure is all mine. I truly, it's an honor being able to moderate this session with you and for you to share with the group your perspective on things. So let's move forward. So the way we'll structure this is clearly for you to share some background in terms of your upbringing, your school, your profession, etc., with a broader group, and then we'll talk about your time at Ruseas, and then talk about your vision in terms of or your perspective in terms of what you see the Ruseas Brother Sister Foundation doing from your understanding of its mission and vision, and how you think we could move things forward. So let me then start with the background. Can you share with the audience a bit about your background, your early years, school attended, professional training, and what you're doing today?
Okay, so I was born in Negril, and I grew up in Negril. I went to Negril Primary School. From there on, I went to Godfrey Stewart High School, and I spent 2 years at Godfrey Stewart High School. And I'm from a Christian upbringing, so my parents wanted me to go to a Christian institution. So I transferred from there to Savlamar High School. Most people don't even know about Savlamar High School. It's a real small Seventh-day Adventist high school. And from there on, I went to Northern Caribbean University where I did an associate in business administration. My major area of focus was accounting and finance. And after that, I graduated in 1979, and I know I'm giving away my age, right? Then
You don't look it. Whatever you're, whatever it is, you look, 20 years younger. So that's all
right, and
right.
then I went to Ruseas, and I of course I was at Ruseas for um, like 7 years or 6.5 years, whatever it is. I can't recall exactly the number of years. And from there on, I went as a transfer student to University of Wisconsin Stout, where I pursued a bachelor's degree in business administration. Later on, I did a master's degree in healthcare administration. And currently, I'm working as a training manager for Swissport. Swissport is the largest ground operating service in the world. So right now, if you guys want to get an idea of what we do, anything that's not in the air when it comes to traveling, we deal with that. It doesn't matter what, as long as it's underground, we deal with that. So we have one of our biggest account right now is with Amazon. So we're responsible for the cargo transfer, whatever cargo transfer there is in the Chicagoland area, mainly out of O'Hare Airport. So my role is pretty much to ensure that everybody is trained properly as it relates to, fueling aircraft and safety and compliance. So it's a very interesting job, a very easy job, not challenging at all. It's just that you got to be familiar with the FAA regulation, also with National Fire Protection Association and United, because we are a vendor to United.
Hmm. I've specific to this current role, as there been any implications in terms of your training mandate, because of what's happening in the current environment now in terms of the pandemic?
Okay, so right now, pretty much it's only Amazon that's doing training. The
Okay.
the company itself is not hiring right now because there are some people who are furloughed, and people are now coming back to the company.
Right.
So they haven't started the rehiring process. So pretty much the areas that are under my portfolio that I'm focusing on right now is just safety and compliance.
Got it. Okay. So we'll get into a little bit more about your time at Ruseas, and one of the areas I know you're very passionate about is sports. We'll talk about that later. But you talk about the school you went to. What were you very much involved in the sporting areas, in the sporting, as you were going through school as well? Did you
Yes,
participate
yes,
in
most
sports?
people are not aware of that because, of course, back when I went to high school, the Seventh-day Adventist institutions were very strict on competing. So we did not compete with any other schools. But as a kid growing up in Negril, I don't know how many people is aware of that, but Negril had one of the best road in Jamaica. So as a kid, I used to, along with my friends, we have a long stretch about, I would say about 3 blocks straight road. It's a straight for about 3 blocks. And then I would go out in the evenings, and then we would compete against each other. So I found out that I was real quick in the sprint from an early age. So I continued to perform. And when I got a chance, then I went and competed for a spot to represent Westmoreland, and I was
Oh,
selected. I was selected to represent Westmoreland. So I actually started performing at a national level when it comes to club level. I mean, when it comes to a club, when I was about 15 years old.
okay.
And after that, I went to West Indies College, and we had, of course, we have our sports day, but then that was it. And so I pretty much came to Ruseas and got involved. Of course, I don't know if you recall, but I always make sure I take on the fastest athlete at Ruseas every year and try to
Yes.
beat them. And then One of I don't know. Most people are familiar with the name um, Lloyd Taylor. That's Craig's brother.
Okay,
He,
yeah, yeah,
he
sure.
used to play cricket at Ruseas. He was a very good cricketer.
Yeah.
So he recommended me to the University of Wisconsin Stout. And so I came here as a transfer student, and then I walk on in track and field. So I started doing track and field again after a break of about 6 years. I started
Wow.
back in track and field again, and I did pretty well. I went as far as, and of course it's a Division III college, and so I went as far as to what we call the conference final, but unfortunately I didn't make it to the national level. But, by then I was already over the hill when it comes to track and field anyway.
Yeah, yeah, no, no, impressive. No, I know your passion for sports and athletics. What distance were you specializing in?
I'm a sprinter, so I do
Sprinter, okay.
anything from 100 meter all the way up to 400 meters. But my specialty area was the 200 meters.
Okay.
So I was a runner up at state level, um, Wisconsin's Conference State University. I was a runner up in the 200 meters.
Okay, wow. Nice, nice. So we'll get into that sports stuff a little bit later on, but let's transition to talking a little bit about your time at Rusea. So share for the audience when you joined Ruseas, the years you spent there, and the subjects you taught at Ruseas.
So I'm going to backtrack a little bit, if I may.
Sure.
Um, So while growing up in Negril, my I had like two brothers and a sister and two nephews who were living in Montego Bay. So I spent most of my time in Montego Bay on holidays. So of course, then I became a Cornwall College fan. And
Mm,
so I mean, I was a die-hearted Cornwall College fan. But then when I was in college, I heard about this game that was supposed to be played between Ruseas and Clarendon College. So I took it upon myself to leave Mandeville, and I came to St. Elizabeth. And while I was coming down, man, I was seeing so many spectators coming from Clarendon College. And I was looking at the spectacle and I'm like, wow, this is going to be big. So then I came to States, and I remember that Clarendon College was on the field, occupy a big section of the field, showing off. And Ruseas was all the way to the far end, and I'm like, oh man, this little country school is not going to be able to handle Clarendon College. So the game started. I can't recall if it was, I don't remember who it was, but I know there was one Ruseas player who got the ball and went through about three CC players. And immediately I started saying, wait a minute, these guys are good. And from there on, I started cheering for Ruseas. And
okay.
so after, when I graduated, one of the things that I told myself that I would never do, I actually wanted to do medicine, because in high school, this is another thing that I never revealed to you guys. I didn't do accounting. I was an arts and science student. So, and I
Okay.
focused mainly on biology, general biology, human and social biology. So that was my area. And so when I get to to um to come to Ruseas now, I started thinking about, well, let me apply to some schools and see, because I didn't want to be a teacher. I never wanted to be a teacher, and I never wanted to be a policeman. All my goal in mind, I wanted to be to get into medicine, no matter what it is. But I found out while I was applying for colleges that it was very difficult coming from a private institution to get in to med school, because I don't know if you're aware of it, but back then, you'll have like 3,000 kids applying to get into natural science, and maybe they only want 30 people, whatever the case
Right.
might be. So it's pretty much the best of the best who could enter UW at that time, you know. And coming from a private high school, I realized that my chance was slim. So I ended up, like applying to JSA and other schools. But anyway, my parents wanted me to go to, it was West Indies College then, no, no, Northern Caribbean University. So I attended. And so after graduation, I started sending out applications. And I got some response. And one of the first school that responded was Ruseas. And so right away, I decided, okay, I'm not going to go to Monroe. I'm not going to go to Manning's. I'm going to go to this school because this school looked like I can go there and make a difference. And of course, in my mind, I'm thinking that somehow, because I'm very religious, that God actually sent me to Ruseas because Ruseas needed a Kenute Connell, you know. So it wasn't just my doing. I think it was God was behind it also. So then I came to Ruseas, and the rest of it is history.
Yeah, yeah, no, certainly. And I'm thankful that destiny sent you our direction, because again, I speak for myself, but I not only speak for myself, but I'm sure I speak for a number of the past students that you interacted with, that you were quite influential in leading us down a path that I think benefited us tremendously as we move forward in life. So we appreciate that. So when then did you join Ruseas? What year?
It was 1979.
Okay. And you spent, how long did you spend?
I was there until 1985. I left and I came here and studied for 2 years, and then I came back to Ruseas for a year.
Right. And for you taught me personally, but for the benefit of the group, what subjects did you teach whilst there?
Okay, so I started off teaching commerce and accounting, and then of course they introduced the Caribbean examination, the CXC, and
Mhm.
so after that I started doing principles of business also. So my major area that I was teaching at that time was principles of business and accounting. Then after coming back to Ruseas, I started teaching computer science also.
Okay. All right. So pretty diverse. Um, so as coming into Rusty's, coming into Hanover, what was your initial impression coming in to Rusty's, and the community, when you first came to the school? I mean, what were your thoughts and first impressions coming
So
in?
here's another reason why I think that God was involved in this. I'm from a very poor background. Um, my last name was very popular in Negril because there were two brothers. My father's name was Albert, and then his brother's name was Dandy, right, or Daniel.
Mm,
And so my uncle is pretty much the first hotelier in Negril, black hotelier in Negril. But my father was the poor colonel then. So actually, I know some might be thinking, well, if you were so poor, how come you went to a private high school? I don't know how my mom and dad did it, because it was very expensive, but they believed in education. But also coming from that poor background, um, remember what I said about Ruseas, this little school came to a big football match and they're like the underdog, and I felt like when I came to Hanover that I had something to prove because I felt like the community on a whole was underserved. And I wanted to come in and make a difference. And I felt like there is no better place to go than to work in at Ruseas High School because I was certain that I could make a difference because I know what my mission was from college. I decided that, just like what Norman was saying earlier on, I decided that I want to make a contribution that goes beyond me and goes beyond my student and goes beyond their kids also. And so while I was teaching, I was always pointing it out to you guys that what I'm giving to you is not just for you, but it's for you to go and make your kids better also, and for your kids to make other people better. So my impression about Hanover is that when I came there, that the people were very friendly. very hospitable to me. I was a young teacher, very young teacher. I had kids at Ruseas who were maybe was an age a year older than I was. So of course I needed a little bit of nurturing, and I got all of that. I got it from the community. Everybody respected me, even though I was young, and I felt like it was the best fit for me at that time. So I really didn't see anything that I didn't like about Hanover. I should say I don't just want to say Rusty. I'm going to say Lucy and the surrounding. So I really didn't see anything that really I could say was I disliked. Everything was fine to me. The only thing I would say is that, like I said, I felt like the community was underserved. So I would have liked to see more involvement, more government involvement in the community. Other than that, everything was fine. The people were great.
Right, right. Yeah, no, and you sort of look back in fond memories on those years, and I mean, we clearly as students during that time, and thinking back to those times, I reflect on some of the teachers, yourself included, that was a part of, I think, a generation of teachers that I would put up against any bunch over the years to say, you guys, yourself, Mr. Dunkley, and others were one of the top educators, I say, of our time. So why, you talk about, and I saw the passion, I saw the care that you guys had for us, not just in disseminating your knowledge to us, but also a true caring for how we were doing as individuals. Are those the things that you would say why people would view you in such high regard and with such respect? Is it the passion, the care that you brought to your craft, or are there other qualities that you felt contributed to the respect that you garnered during that time?
You know, it's I often look at an educator as somebody who is given a task, and the task must be accomplished without thinking about the reward. And so, for me, um, I think that the passion has a lot to do with it, and I also had a mission. And the people I got very close with, like Mr. Donkey that you mentioned, and Mr. Clark, they had the same mission, and we actually never sat down and discussed what our mission was. But like I said, my main mission was to ensure that I get the best out of everybody that was sitting in front of me in the classroom. And coming from my science background, my human anatomy and physiology background, I felt like as long as you're healthy, male or female, you have the ability to learn. You know, because I always kept in mind what my teacher told me, that the average male brain weighs about 49 ounces, and the average female weighs about 44 ounces. And I think that if we share something which is common to each other, then it's just a matter of getting the right person to put in front of the student. And I believe that as long as the student is healthy, they can learn. So I was determined to ensure that anybody who sits in my classroom get the subject and get the subject well. Just a couple of weeks ago, I was talking to one of our former student, and I was telling him I have never completed a syllabus at Ruseas. I've never completed a syllabus. As a matter of fact, I have never completed more than 75% of a syllabus.
Mm,
Because when you're teaching, you have to make sure that you create an environment that is conducive to learning. Teaching should be um, like watching a good movie, or reading a good book. So you want to see the end of it. No, that's how I approach everything that I was doing, every subject that I was teaching. There wasn't one student who was sitting in front of me that I didn't think that could learn the subject here. I had confidence in them, and I made sure that they understand that if you're going to learn in my classroom, there are certain expectations that I have of you. I'm going to deliver as long as you can be disciplined in my class, as long as you can follow instruction, as long as you can go home and do your homework, as long as you can ask, participate in class, then I'm going to do what I can do for you. And, I asked that of my student and they all responded. I can hardly I can't recall one student that I could say to you, this student used to give me problem in class because I set the tone and I asked for respect and I gave back respect. I treated my students like they were my younger brother or, I wouldn't say a son because none of y'all could be my son. Most of y'all were, like I said, most of the people are almost my age anyway, but I treated y'all as a younger brother or a younger sister. And I really never had a favorite. You know, I was talking to some students again the other day, and you know what I used to do? I don't know if you remember this, Gregory, but I always ask you guys to write your name on the top right-hand corner of your examination paper. And then I always ask you to fold the top right-hand corner where your name is, as to cover your name. And then I ask you to fold the paper vertically so that it can open like a book. So when I'm going to mark examination paper, I would open it. I would not know whose paper I'm marking because, sometimes you get to a question as a teacher, you're going to mark this question and then there's a little bit of benefit of the doubt.
Yeah,
And the
sure.
student who behave well in class, what are you going to
Right.
do? You're going to be
Yeah.
partial, right? You're going to give it to that student. So I wanted my student to feel like there is no partiality. I don't know any student that could say that was my favorite student. You all were my favorite. So it's the approach. I think that when even my kids come home and said a subject is boring, it really bothers me. There's no subject that is boring. You know, I don't want to say the teacher is boring because I have respect for teachers, but the subject should always be taught in such a way that is entertainment, and that's what it takes for you to get students to be disciplined, to be attentive. You have to demand their attention. The attention pull that you're getting from them has to be the fact that they're enjoying the subject here.
No, that's excellent and well said. I like your the analogies that you draw in terms of teaching and as you reference, covering the syllabus and the likes. I think that was well said. An opportunity to speak to the younger generation today, as you think about the students that you taught back then, myself included, and those who have gone on to have some degree of success in life. Are there some qualities that you saw then that you would say to the generation today are things that they should seek to emulate or ways they should look to carry themselves? Are there some things that you could articulate to the younger generation today?
See, again, the responsibility falls on the teacher. The responsibility totally falls on the teacher. So I get all of this commendation from my past students all the while about how good a teacher I was. But there is no good teacher without good students. The students have to be good, but you're the leader in the class. You're the leader in the class. If you take, for example, you go to court, the judge is the leader of the proceedings. And so he demands certain things. You can't get on your telephone, you can't do this and you can't do that. So, teaching has certain components to it. All right. And every teacher, remember, I didn't go to a teacher's college. I came into Rusea as a specialist teacher, like the people who came in from CAS and UW. But teachers have to realize that there are components of learning, and most of us go through school and we're never told the components of learning. The number one component of learning is you have to make sure that your students are good listeners, right? They're good listeners. I'm not talking about hearing, I'm talking about listening. Next, you have to think about making sure you're giving them knowledge, you're giving them understanding, and you're giving them interpretation of the subject area. Now, if you're doing all of that, there is no need to cover the syllabus because if you're doing all of that, by the time you get to 75% of this the syllabus, that student can teach themselves the rest of the syllabus. Okay, so I think that's what's lacking in today's education system, is that nobody's spelling out to the students or is even applying it in teaching, demanding listening, number one, making sure that there is knowledge, understanding, and the most important of all is interpretation. Because say for instance, you get on your computer, you start typing, and after you type something, you're supposed to hit enter. You input something, you don't hit enter. And then everybody knows that. But do we really have an interpretation of why you're hitting enter? That's a different thing. So when you're teaching, the student, no matter what the subject area is, the student should be able to have a full interpretation of the subject area. So interpretation goes way beyond knowledge and understanding, right? So for instance, I can say to you right now, and Norwin will agree with me, you're confirming to the computer that what I just inputted in you, I want you to process it and give me the result. Okay, so what today, as far as I'm seeing, my first daughter was a honor student throughout high school. And she came to me asking me questions in Spanish. I said, when I was going to high school, if you're on a student in Spanish, you're going to be able to speak Spanish fluently. It's totally different nowadays. So I think we need to go back to basic, and we need to emphasize more the components of learning within the classroom setting. So it's not so much on the student, because the students are not aware of this coming from their homes. The
Sure.
parents might say, listen, but the parents never really explain to you what listening is. So you're mixing up listening with hearing. If you're listening, your parents would not have to talk to you more than once. But when you're hearing, it's a totally different thing. You go back and do the same thing, because they really do not have an interpretation of what they're trying to, the message that they're trying to send to you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's about making sure that we go back to basic. No, teaching does not come from degrees. It doesn't come from degrees. So people are thinking that, okay, so somebody who has a PhD is going to be a good teacher. No, not necessarily so. Because you need some level of academic qualification in order to teach, but you have to be able to come out there and be able to create a setting that is conducive to learning.
Right. So how you relate, how you motivate, how you encourage, how you bring those light bulb moments to life, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. I think about my days at Ruseas, and I remember I had classes um, from 4 Science 1 all the way down to 4 Lower General. You have a responsibility as a teacher to make sure that everybody, whether they're in 4 Science 1 or Lower General, you have to make sure everybody learning in the class. You have that responsibility. Now, it's a little bit more difficult when you get to the lower level, because the 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 what you said, the closeness of ability start spreading. It's a bit wider spread. So it's a little bit more difficult as a teacher to be able to teach a class like that and get the same result that you would get in a Science 1 class or in an art class or whatever the case might be. But again, I go back to the fact that it's a responsibility of the teacher to know how to teach. So I wouldn't say that whatever is happening right now, I think that we first got to recognize the role that school has to play as an institution in learning and development of a kid. And then if we understand that, then you're going to get respect, you're going to get motivation. You know, I can recall with you guys, like I said before, I couldn't wait for the next day to come back to class. And then you're getting challenged by the student. You guys are asking questions. They're trying to see how much I know, but I want to come back to class because it's like watching a good movie. So it's the teacher's creativity right now that is lacking. It's not so much a student.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Let me just take a couple of seconds. So you're on the forum, just looking at some of the feedback coming in, see if there are any questions. So yes, a lot of bless up and all that good good Jamaican lingo that people use. So I think folks are enjoying the interaction. So let me then sort of not deviate, but move into another avenue, area of passion for you, and it's sports. We were talking earlier, and you said you were out, doing some tennis lessons and the like, and I've seen you on social media, and you talk about your beloved, whether it's the track and fields or I know you enjoy your football, meaning American football, I'm sure, as well as soccer, football as well. So I saw your Bears won yesterday.
Yes, sir.
So I know you've got an intense passion for sports as well, and you brought that into Rusea. So we touched some on your classroom. Let's talk about now your involvement in sports and your support for sports in Ruseas. What areas did you get involved in whilst you are at Ruseas, and what was the level of involvement?
Okay, so again, see, my my definition of education involves physical development, mental, spiritual development. That's again going back to what the question you asked previously about teachers knowing um, how to define whatever they're doing and how to break down whatever they're doing. Yeah, education is never a definition of education is never complete to me unless it involves physical development. So I was always involved in sports, like I told you, from an early age. I came to Ruseas and immediately um, I got involved with track and field. And I can't remember exactly when, if it was from the initial stage, I became the head track and field coach. Later on, Colin Miller, the principal, asked me if I would be interested in becoming the sports coordinator. So I was coordinating the sports in the school in its entirety, which means that I would go around and do some scouting. I know that most people don't even know that we used to scout at Rusea. So we would go. I would go around to like matches and look at how the team is playing and come back and tell Mr. Henry or Troy was a little bit of what I saw, and they would do whatever they feel necessary to see if that would be a benefit to the team. I don't know how they use the information, but I would just pass on the information to them. Mr. Miller would also ask me to go around to schools like Green Islands, junior secondary, and schools in Westmoreland, and I would go there and recruit athletes, recruit netballers, recruit football players. I almost said soccer. I recruit football players. And so the other day I was on the forum and Talbert Dixon reminded me that I came to Green Island and I saw him and I said, are you interested in coming to Ruseas? And the Monday he was at Ruseas. I didn't even remember that, but we used to go around and do that, especially when it comes to netballers. So I was involved in pretty much every sport. I was involved I was the head coach for track and field. As you know, I used to coach Coles and Junior Coles. He
Yeah.
was on the Coles team.
Yes, I'm glad you said that, Mr. Connell, because no one believed that I played some football during my time. So I'm glad you're here to confirm that, sir. Thank you
A
for sharing
very
that
good,
with the world.
a very good link man, holding position. A very good
Listen,
holding position.
guys, you heard that. Say that
Yes, a
again,
very
Mr.
good.
Connell.
Yes, yeah, that's for real.
Okay,
A
thank
very
you,
good
sir.
holding position man in the league. So and then also your wife was involved in some of the things that was, I think, in 19 I think it was 84, just before I left Ruseas, I started a little volleyball also. Your wife was a pretty good player.
Yeah,
But
yeah. And
I
she
guess
played the
after it didn't
netball as well.
yeah, I guess after that didn't continue. I used to coach the netball team also.
Right.
As a matter of fact, I coached the netball team to the regional finals against States. But there was
Okay.
some mishap when it comes to the information as to when we were supposed to go to Kingston. So Stets went and claimed the points because we didn't hear about going to Kingston until the morning when it was read on the sports news. And in the background, we had a committee that used to meet on a regular basis. I know I was in it, um, Mr. Henry, Mr. Miller. I think Mr. Clark was in it too, Mr. Hamilton, and we
Mhm.
would sit down and do an overall assessment of the football team when they go and play. We do an overall assessment, and you know, of course, the final decision was always in the hands of the coach and everything. But we would discuss these things and make a give our opinion about what we see that needs to be improved, and areas that we see that was everything was done pretty good and so forth. Um, I don't know if you remember that there were coaches that we sat down also discussed about the coach's performance, and that's the reason why one of the reasons why Mr. Henry ended up being the coach. Mr. Henry had a unanimous decision coming from that committee to be the coach at Ruseas. So we are total confident in what Mr. Henry was able to do. And ever since I've worked very closely with Mr. Henry when I was there. Um, I don't know if you remember, but I was talking to Anthony Marks, Mr. Marks, because Mr.
Yes.
Marks and myself used to work together with the Colts and junior Colts, and we were talking. And I know if you remember that we used to make a drink that we call Koroboro, which was made from molasses and condensed milk with nutmeg and all of these things mixed up together. And it became a part of something that was mainly for the Colts and junior Colts, and then they suddenly, of course, the Costa Cup guys wanted some of it also. We used to, just a nutritious drink for them. So with the track and field, um, we went very far in track and field, but of course, Ruseas was considered to be a football school, so not much attention was paid to track and field. But back in I'm trying to think that it was 1983. We went to national champs. It was boys champs and girls champs then. We went to boys champs and we did pretty well. We were placed in the top 10. We had
Okay.
about 7 athletes or 8 athletes. We had people like Craig Taylor. We had uh, Devon Leslie Sampson. We used to call him Sampson. We had Wayne Coote, um, Richard McPherson, Howard Miller,
Right. Yeah.
uh, Audley Walker. Who else am I missing? I know I'm missing somebody. And Anthony Ricketts, you
Right.
know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I just asked Greg and I forget his name. And not Greg, I just asked Troy
Troy.
this morning, I forget his name already. There's a guy from Church Street. We used to call him Connor.
Yeah. 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 Connor.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
he was on the team also.
Yeah.
So most people don't know, but that's the first set of guys that got selected to the Carifta Games. Craig was called
Oh.
in to represent Jamaica in the 100 meters, and Anthony Ricketts was called in to represent in high jump.
Yes. Yes.
So we did very well that year. We got first in the class 3 long jump. We got second in the class 2 200 meter. We got second in the class 2 100 meters, and I think we pick up some point from Howard Miller in the discus or the
They
shot put. I
discuss.
can't
Yeah.
recall which one it was.
Yeah.
So we did very well. Of course, after I left, everything went down. But I have to give a lot of credit to these guys because we were training with pretty much no facility. I mean, no equipment at all. You know, and so these guys, it was from their hard work why we were able to make it to Kingston and did so well. Um, so I was like involved in all aspect of sports within the school.
Yeah, yeah. Some as you're calling off the name, some I didn't even remember, but those are, yeah, some of the prolific athletes we had then. I remember Lottie Frogman was also a sprinter, right? But he wasn't a part of the team that went to Carifta
Yeah,
that year.
I think he did. I can't recall. I think he went to Kingston also. There was
Okay.
another guy I'm missing. I don't remember what his name is, but we used to call him Preacher.
Mm.
And actually, Preacher went there as the favorite to win the 400 meters. But
Okay.
that excitement got to him when he went there, and so he got sick and he didn't perform very well.
Yeah, yeah. No, great. So you were at Ruseas during the prominent years when, our schoolboy football, started to take off as well, right? So the finals in '83, and then from then, really, into the late '80s, '90s, the team actually did quite well. I mean, what were your fondest memories during that period as it relates to the schoolboy football?
Okay, so man, if I don't know if you know how I how deep I get involved with sports. I don't know if you remember. I was like the clown at Rusty's High School at every game. I was always screaming on top of my voice. With a netball, I was screaming on top of my voice. So it was all fun, man. As long as we were winning, it was all fun. you know, you know. So I can't even see a moment. I think that um I am trying to the team that won the Costa Cup. I don't remember what year it was. I think if I have to pick one team, I would have to say that team was the team that I was fond of because I was so close to these guys. Because I remember at this time the narrative around even at Rusty's High School was that Rusty's was a football school, and so there were times when um the 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 footballers to me were treated indifferently because people say, oh, they're footballers, so of course they're not going to learn. And so I had something to prove because, like I said, my definition of education was always that it involved that physical aspect of it. And so people like Gladwin Brevet and of course Troy and Malcolm, they were in my principal of business class, and I was very close to them, including Linton Stewart and Rowan Samuels. I was trying so hard with these guys because I wanted to prove a point that no, these guys are not only footballers; they can also do as well as the people who are considered to be academics. And then these guys did very well in class. Of course, um, but it, I think that was my greatest satisfaction to know that not only did some of these guys um, win the Costa Cup, but they were also doing very well academically. So if there's one team I have to pick, then it would be like that. But I think that I enjoyed every single moment of every sport that I was involved in at Ruseas High School. You know, the netballers, man, I had a very close bond with the netballers, and they did so well. I was so proud of them. It was just unfortunate that we got the wrong information and we were not able to compete to go to the regional finals because from there on we would have gone to the national finals, of course.
Right, right. No, that's a great story, great background, great history on your time. So, what's your level of involvement today in sports?
Um, Here,
So
all
you
right,
talked about tennis. No, no, now.
oh yeah, yes,
Sorry, my cat. If you see a
I
cat
still
in
do a
my
lot of yeah, I still do a lot of coaching. I have my own private program. I still get a high level of success. In Illinois, in the high school system, most people think that I'm a jumpers coach. you know,
Okay.
and for some reason I always get very good results in the jump because if you remember, like I said, when we went to the boys championship, we got first in the class 3 long jump. As a matter of fact, I got a call from Herb McKinley back then,
Oh, wow.
and he was saying that if the meet was an official meet, it would have been maybe an age group record because I
Wow.
can recall. I think he jumped like 21 feet something as a class 3 athlete. So as a matter of fact, I think it was a record for like 1 year and then it was broken the other year. Can't remember by whom. But I still do a lot of I'm still involved in coaching. Last year, up until last year, I was coaching at a high school. And while I was coaching at the high school, one of my female athlete was ranked number 4 in the nation in long jump. So I still get pretty good
Wow,
results in the
wow.
jump. And also I had like 2 other girls who were in the rank in the top 10 in the state. And I had a guy who was ranked in the top 10 in high jump, triple jump, and long jump.
Nice, nice. Yeah, so continue to do your thing, huh?
Yes, sir.
Beautiful. So we have a few more minutes, and I'd like to spend the next few minutes to talk a little bit about the Ruseas Brother Sister Foundation and your views. So, you know, the foundation was formed out of a general interest from started out with a group of past footballers who had an interest in giving back to the school. There was a lot of discussion around the Colin Miller Sports Complex and the state of affairs of the complex, and that something needed to be done. But beyond that, the group felt that there was just a general opportunity to give back. So, we a smaller group then went off to the side. I got pulled in. Norwin got pulled in to really take this concept and see how we move it into reality. So we've formalized an organization. We've gotten as a not-for-profit, we've gotten a tax exempt status that was recently provided by the IRS. So we're a recognized charitable organization in the U.S. And clearly we're very much keen on putting things in place to be able to give back to our alma mater. A few things that we've recently initiated is through the work of our tech guru, the one who's doing the production in the background right now, Norwin. We've engaged Ruseas on a number of fronts today on the technology side. So we've established a email network for the Ruseas High School teachers that actually ends with the domain name ruseashighschool.com. So if a teacher is emailing you today, it looks very official. It has that ruseashighschool.com domain attached to it. We've actually partnered with Google, and Google does this in terms of supporting charities and educational institutions to establish what they refer to as a Google EDU platform that really helps to facilitate the online learning process, which is very critical as we're operating in this pandemic. And clearly another focus, in addition to all the things we're trying to do from an educational and cultural perspective, is what we could do to further develop the sports complex into one that's a much higher quality, and we think could ultimately benefit the school in general in the future. So those are just a synopsis of some of the things that we're focused on. So as you think about what you've heard, and I know you've had conversations with Troy, you've seen some things that have been shared on the forum. What are your thoughts in terms of what this foundation is trying to do? What would you say to others on the outside looking in, and just your general observations of what you've seen and heard so far?
Okay, so before I go into that, I just want to remind people not don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe and share, because we trying to get some funds from this also. So everyone just go ahead and make sure you hit that like button and make sure you subscribe and share also. Yeah. So you know, Gregory, there are a lot of us who never got disconnected from Ruseas. So in the background, we were doing stuff as individuals, and that's why I want to say how much I appreciate you guys making the move and bringing this thing to fruition, because it needed somebody to get a foundation of this sort. Um, I was telling Troy that I'm one person who I don't watch movies. I watch the news a lot, and I watch sports a lot. My favorite station is ESPN HD high definition and BBC World News, and I read Jamaican news all the while also.
Mhm.
And I picked up the paper. I knew about Cape Donaldson. I heard about Cape Donaldson that he had fell on a hard time, and I picked up the paper, and somewhere on the front page I saw where it said that he was murdered at the market in Savannah Lamar. And of course, you know how close I was to the footballers. So being an emotional person, I got very teary-eyed and I said to myself, this should have never happened. Then again, I heard about Fabian, and something was posted online whereby Mr. Henry and Marion was on at the funeral. As he was funeralized, a photograph was taken. And I made a post and I said, how much longer is this going to happen? Whereby these footballers who spend their time on the playing field, training hard every day to entertain us, right? We can't give back something to them. So I asked, how much longer is this going to continue? So of course, behind the scene, I was talking to some other people about what can we do, and I said that I would be willing to start contributing to whatever fund there is, to ensure that this doesn't happen again. Of course, you're going to hear the detail about what people will do. We know what people will do when it comes to that. They'll take advantage of a situation and they'll communicate that they're in need when they're not really in need. But I was concerned about those two guys because those two guys I knew personally and they were very close to me. So I was really deeply moved when I found out that there was such a foundation, the Ruseas Brosis Foundation. I was really excited and happy. And of course, there's no way I wouldn't be a part of this because there's a need for this in so many ways. And I think that I would advocate for the project that you guys are now working on. I would be a strong advocate for that. I think it's a great way of memorializing Mr. Colin Miller, and also what can be derived from it. This could be a venture, a profit venture. If done properly, it could be a profit venture in so many ways. I was talking to Troy about some of the things that could be implemented within that plan that wouldn't cost a lot, but would have to generate funds for what the Ruseas Brosis Foundation is all about. So I think that you guys couldn't have picked a better project as the startup project to show, the people who are on the outside are what this whole federation is all about. So I definitely endorse this first project that you guys are planning on and working on.
Yeah, no, that's great. Someone had asked, had sent a question. They were asking were you around when the sports complex was first conceptualized and developed?
Yeah.
Someone that was asking a question, if you could elaborate on your experience then.
Okay. So see, a lot of us are involved in where Ruseas are right now when it comes to sports. There are a lot of names that I could call. And see, most people do not know about it because we did most of this stuff in the background and it was never highlighted because we weren't doing this for it to be highlighted. So I was discussing with Troy the other day how the Colin Miller Sports Complex came about. Um, it was I can't remember who was involved, all the people who were involved, but it was brought to my attention. And I know at one stage I went to with Mr. Miller. Went to it was Jackie Factory at that time, and we went and talked to the people at Jackie, and To my knowledge, if my memory serves me right, the property was donated by Jackie. All right. The and That's how this Colin Miller Sports Complex came about. So the the whole idea of the whatever happened with the sports complex and stuff like that, it was from like approaching people like the Jackie Factory and talking to them about how much they could contribute to the school, and they have contributed, and so they contributed the property for the sports complex. There are other people who contributed in other ways, like people like I don't know how many people are aware of it. Nard Rary, who was one of the big hotelier in Negril. He contributed a lot. As a matter of fact, the first banquet we had for the first Dacosta Cup team, he was the one who financed that banquet. You know, but then again, I say most people is not even aware of that. It's only the people who are directly involved with, like, the coordination of sport would be aware that, the principal and so forth. So you know, that's why a lot of credit, and I say that's the project that we need to work on first, because Colin Miller dedicated his whole self to the development of sport in at Ruseas and Lucy and surrounding areas.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thanks for sharing that. And the thing I want to say is, for those who are listening to this and is thinking that, this is a focus on sports. I think what I would say to that, it's bigger than that, right? I mean, we see you talk about it being an avenue to generate funds for the school, and that's how we're seeing it, right? We're seeing the sports complex as an opportunity for us to put an infrastructure in place could be leveraged in so many ways to generate a source of revenue for Ruseas High School, not for the Ruseas Brother Sister Foundation, but for Ruseas High School, which is the whole
Exactly.
intent of the foundation. That could be invested, and those funds could be invested in education, in sports, in culture and arts, whatever the school deems appropriate. So that's the one thing I would say to folks is that the focus on the sports complex is a start and an avenue to what we hope are bigger things for Ruseas High School, and we're just a vehicle helping to facilitate that.
So there's one thing about that this whole idea is that um I think most of the people that I've spoke to thus far regarding the Brosis Foundation, they have indicated to me that our number one priority is academics when it comes to Ruseas High School. It's definitely academics. But again, there has to be a mix when it comes to education. We got to stop defining education as, you know, just pure academics. That's not what it is at all.
Right.
You know, I did track and field while I was doing my degree. It is possible. It helps to refresh your mind, to hit that refresh button when you exercise. You know, most health expert right now is considering um exercise almost as a part of your diet. You know what I'm saying? So I understand what you're saying. There are people who are going to be thinking that way, but remember, if I look at myself as an individual, if you're talking to people who are in class, 4 Science 1, 4 Science 2, 4 Arts, and 5 Science 1, 5 Science 2, 5 Arts, A-level accounting, everybody see me as this great teacher who was a great accounting teacher, principal of business, but nobody remember that I was also deeply involved in sports. So I do believe that the number one priority is supposed to be academic. So I support what you're saying. I don't want people to get lost in thinking that this is what this foundation is about. It's not just about sports. The core of the formation is from guys who are involved in sports, of course, and the founder member also involved guys who were not even involved in sports.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's just I wanted to be a part of this because I share the same mission the same vision that you guys have, you know, to continue to give as much as I can for the betterment of the parish. Remember, I said I went in thinking that this was an underserved community, and I still believe it's an underserved community. I think the parish of Hanover is often overlooked, because when I went to Ruseas, I used to hear about Ruseas being a great school. All of a sudden, I didn't hear anything more about Ruseas because there were people who thought that, okay, these guys can't learn because they're from a poor parish or whatever the case might be. So, of course, this is what it's all about. It's about, number one, is academics, and then, um, but the sports complex, just like anywhere else in the world, sports is a big business. That's the best place to start off if we're going to generate fun. Start off in sports, and then we can do whatever we want to do when it comes to academics. But that's the best area to start off, in my opinion. I don't know if anybody else can identify another area that is better than what the project that you guys have selected. But in my opinion, and with my background, I think that's the best area to start off.
Yeah, no, good. And and as I had alluded to before, even though that's sort of the core, part of a big element of what there are a number of things that we think are low-hanging fruits that we're trying to execute against, things on the technology side. We're talking about things as some of us who've gone out beyond Ruseas and gained some experience and exposure. How do we, even if it's a matter of just visiting the school, having, leadership sessions with students, share our perspectives. I think those go a long way to giving back. It doesn't necessarily have to be monetary. It's just how we build back that connection to the school and share our learnings and experiences. I think those could go a long way in helping to build, I think, world-class organization, institution in Ruseas High School.
Yeah, we got to get back to the fact that, some of the most impeccable students that I've come across is Ruseas High School. Um, that was the toughest decision I've ever made in my life, leaving Ruseas. And so we the people who are involved, the founder members and the other people who are rallying in the group, that's what we want to promote. We want to promote, first of all, academics, but we're just using that as the avenue right now to go through that avenue because we know this avenue can generate funds to do what we intend to do. So hopefully everybody understands it. And I'm talking to a lot of people, um, of course, and I hope people understand that this is not all about footballers at all, you know. And but the football is a very cohesive group, of course, and therefore you're gonna seem that way. But it's not all about football at all. So I want everybody to be clear that this is more so about building a total Ruseas High School, back to what Ruseas is supposed to be like, building the not only at Ruseas but also building in surrounding areas, that at the
Yep,
primary schools, at the
yep.
basic school, whatever we can do. But of course, we're starting off with Ruseas. That's the core. So then hopefully everybody will come on board and understand this is something that they can contribute to, not just like I said, not only financially, and make a big difference, for their community, and not only for the community but for Jamaica as a whole.
Yes, yes. Couldn't have said it better, Mr. Kano. So we're getting to the closing. I don't know if there's any last comments you want to share before we close off this session to the listening audience. Any final words from your perspective?
Um, Pretty much, I've said it all already, but
I
I
think
just
so,
wanted
yeah.
to add that I'm encouraging people to do some marketing on behalf of this Brosis Foundation. Do some marketing, get out there and talk to other people, you know, to come in and help. And we know that there are going to be difference in opinion sometimes when we get on the online and people are speaking, but allow everybody to have their say. The only time there's going to be a problem is when you're trying to force your opinion on somebody else. If we can just understand that people, there are going to be difference in opinion, and just be respectful to other people's opinion, Don't try to force your opinion on anybody, then everything is going to be fine. So let's all work together and let's all go out and market this nonprofit foundation and see how many members we can get, and let's rally together and see. Let's make Hanover and Ruseas a better place. I know you guys see what I'm wearing. If I'm wearing one of them jerseys from 1983. I keep
Oh, is it?
everything.
Okay.
You would think that I went to Ruseas High School. I just love the place, man. I was treated like a king at Ruseas. I mean, I was nurtured. I was treated as a king. I mean, the students were very respectful. I got a lot from that place. I just want to give back, and I just want to encourage other people to give back also. That's all. We know that everybody is not going to be able to afford, to give when it comes to, financially, but then whatever you can do, go out and, get involved in whatever activities we're going to have and see whatever you can contribute, just contribute. And let's make this a success. I believe that this is going to be the best group coming out of Ruseas for some reason. And it's mainly because I know the people who are behind the core people who are involved in it, and I know the people who I'm talking to. And if me and Mr. Dunkley is in it, man, it's not gonna fail. Believe me.
All right. Listen, I couldn't have said a
We
better a
don't
better
believe in failure.
closing. Huh?
We don't believe in failures, man. So
Yes,
it's not gonna
yes.
fail.
Yes, yes. No, and I again I talk about the stalwarts during of leaders, educators during my time at Ruseas, and you mentioned Mr. Dunkley are two of my idols that I've looked up to. So again, I Mr. Connell, I thank you for your time. I thank you for the passion in which you express your viewpoints very clearly, very very eloquently. I'm looking at just so again, a lot of great feedback coming in from people who are watching this. So I think they enjoyed your interview. Or you're sharing, I wouldn't say interview because I don't want to give the impression I was interviewing, but you're sharing and the moderating of the time with you. So again, appreciate, great seeing you. Good luck with for your Bears this season. I'm actually missing my New York Giants game now. Hopefully they're kicking the Steelers ass, so I'll go catch up on where that stands. But all the best and great seeing you, sir.
Yeah, this was indeed a pleasure, man. I'm telling you the truth. It was indeed a pleasure. And I just want to say to everybody, pure love, man. Pure love. Let's show pure love on this foundation. I can feel the love, and let's continue, man, to be very, you know, tolerant to each other and show love for each other. And if we do so, then this whole thing is going to be a success.
Yes, well said, well said. All right. So in closing, to the viewing audience, thank you for spending the last hour and 15 minutes plus with us. Hope you enjoyed the conversation, and of course, more to come. And Mr. Connell, again, thanks for your time, sir, and all the best. And we'll stay in touch. I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot more from you as we move forward. Thank you.
Yes,
Good night,
sir. You're
folks.
welcome. Good night.